Imagine the best Pueblo you can possibly envision. What would it look like? What would your kids say about living here? What employers would seek to move here? How would people interact? What if every person in Pueblo felt that someone had his or her back? What would we change? What would we strengthen? Who would need to be at the table to make the shift? These are some of the ideas that sparked One Community Pueblo and that continue to motivate our work. How can we make our community better together? Can we do it smarter? A group of community members began to meet about 2 years ago to discuss these questions. We've come to think of ourselves as an aspen grove, as individuals, as organizations, as businesses, as government. Our missions are varied, but from a deeper perspective, we are linked. We began to understand that if we wanted to create change, we had to get to that deeper level, to the roots of the matter, our roots, as a community of caring people. We also began to think about impact. If we focus all efforts collectively, can we make a difference in problems that have been intractable in the past? If we could agree on a pebble that would make a ripple effect, what would that pebble be? Positive youth development. In February 2011, we brought a group of leaders together for a day of discussion and planning. As a group, represented by health professionals, educators, nonprofit and government leaders, we began to go down a common path. Like the Aspens, we knew we needed input and support from our many partners in order to commit to something this big. We needed a shared vision, a purpose that could help us build a common will to create a path to a possible future. We knew success could not come in silos. We could no longer work alone and be as successful as we knew we could be. We wanted to create a new way of thinking, a new way of working together that would embrace and build connections. We needed a set of values that focused on making it better together. It became apparent that across the country other organizations and communities were thinking the same thing. So we did some research, and we found an article in the Stanford Social Innovation Review, December 2010, written by John Kania and Mark Kramer, who introduced us to the idea of collective impact. In this piece, they described several efforts in place around the country, and they outlined 5 key concepts that strengthened collaborative work. The first of which is a common agenda, a shared vision. This vision goes beyond what a single person, agency, or sector can accomplish individually. In this work, protecting turf is a thing of the past. It requires sharing responsibility for both shortfalls and success. The second pillar is centered around data and using it to gain an understanding, learning from it, hearing the story it reveals. Sharing this data with others is an important step in this process. And using the data to inform action is even more important. There have been times when we have had to shift our thinking and let go of our sacred but ineffective ideals. If something is not working, we change directions. It's not personal. These steps are helping us to be more effective with limited resources. If a community has a set of common outcomes, finding ways to mutually reinforce activities just makes good sense. This concept underscores the importance of every person, every family, every agency. We cannot make the change we hope to make, be the change we hope to be, without that kind of integration. Communicating is another key element. In order to align activities, we have to talk to one another. Sounds simplistic enough, but between challenges of scheduling and the many and varied levels of thinking that come together, it can be tough. Nature of the work. Agreements are sometimes hard won, but the importance of investing this time and effort cannot be underestimated. We have also learned that successful collective impact strategies must have backbone. This is the managing force that keeps a group talking, learning, and evolving. Each community has to do its own work, create the vision and the backbone that make the most organic sense to that community. We learned we must have clear objectives, but allow room for change, shifts in thinking, new learning. We learned we must be open to what comes next. How does this relate to a healthy Pueblo? There are lots of choices to make. The collective vision helps point the way. Evidence-based interventions are the roots of the change work. Programs help individuals to experience new things that in turn lead to different choices. A whole community making healthier choices totals to a new set of outcomes. We envision Pueblo as a place where healthy choices become the norm. We are clear that diversity and inclusion are part of our strength. We work to open doors and avenues to those healthy choices. To that sense that my community cares, that Pueblo has my back, that it is a safe and supportive place to grow into my potential, a place where graduating from each stage of life is celebrated and supported. Pueblo has many challenges. High rates of poverty are common. More than 25% of kids live in poverty here. We know from data that generational poverty sets the stage for other issues: teen pregnancy, truancy and dropout, domestic violence, suicides, and gang activity. We have low rates of educational attainment and high rates of diabetes and obesity. In our next steps in the One Community journey, we go back to school. Through the data, we have an important story to tell. We know that dropout indicators include failing grades, suspensions, and absences, most specifically in the 9th grade. 3rd grade achievement is another key indicator for success. We think of it as building momentum, building on what is working well. Safe Schools, Healthy Students Initiative in Pueblo City Schools is a federally funded project that has been working in Pueblo for the past 5 years. Although it is based on a national set of guidelines, it focuses on needs of Pueblo's children, our children. Our job is to promote and support healthy learning environments pre-K through 12, every child, every day. Pueblo City Schools is home to 18,000 students, many of whom live in generational poverty. Evaluation of the work has been robust, and the learning of this initiative in Pueblo has much to offer the community. The components range from physical, social, and emotional safety to an emphasis on early childhood education. Working with our evaluators, Center for Research Strategies, the Safe Schools team developed targets for the changes it hoped to make. The trending has begun to tell a story. Through an annually administered Healthy Kids Colorado survey between 2008 and school year 2011 to 12, kids told us they were missing school because they felt unsafe, either at school or getting to or from school. The SSHS initiative, which includes a strong coalition of educators and community partners, went to work implementing and monitoring programs to enhance safety and reduce bullying behaviors. From the 2008 baseline, students who reported feeling unsafe decreased by 18%, exceeding our goal by 8 percentage points. We wanted to see at least an 8% reduction in fights on school grounds. We got a 39% reduction. Mental health became a primary focus. Many of our families here do not have health insurance, and for many that do, mental health is not covered. Safe Schools worked with partners to increase the availability of mental health assistance by housing therapists directly in schools, where students needed them most. The needs around mental health and physical wellness continue to be great in the community, but we knew that as a community we could not afford to lose the momentum started by SSHS. We had to think past the Safe Schools initiative. We had to go big. Learning and evolving according to needs is an important lesson we can take from the Safe Schools, Healthy Students initiative. Communities like Austin, Texas, and Cincinnati, Ohio, are further along in the collective impact work than Pueblo, and we learn much from lessons they share. In terms of reduction in the students reporting use of alcohol, the goal was a 5% drop in the rates. The actual shift was a 14% reduction in those reports. We have much to learn from what works and what doesn't. While we made big shifts in reports of drinking, we did not see the same impact for use of marijuana. Why? We are not sure, but we don't turn our back on what the data may teach us. The Safe Schools Healthy Students Initiative was managed by a strong staff, a backbone. The staff also worked to grow that forest of partnerships necessary for change. And while Safe Schools Healthy Students and One Community Pueblo started out as separate but interconnected efforts, growing the partnership together is the next organic evolution. It is our strategy to sustain the momentum of the work that Safe Schools started. We don't do this work in isolation. We do it together. We research the current thinking. We seek out other communities doing similar work. We listen to youth. We communicate. We share success, shortfalls, and surprises. It is a big task. There are lots of elements that go into it. There is no shortage of challenge. Our vision is unquestionably big. We think it is the right size for our future. We are currently working on a platform for a dashboard of data that can be shared with the community. This dashboard will be a place where agencies can safely store and share data, a place where dialogue can begin, and data stories can be revealed. We find data gathering senseless if we are not truly investigating what it all means. What is the story behind the data? Our dashboard has 16 outcomes with close to 60 data points. We're working to set the baselines. We hope to have a tool to communicate the importance of these measurements and change strategies by the end of this year. We are sharing our rough sketch for the health outcomes we seek. But we intend to color it all in, over time and with lots of help from many sources. We call it our 25-year vision, or our cradle-to-career strategy. Imagine a whole generation of Pueblo's children and families with support to build and achieve their dreams in full Technicolor. Our Aspen roots start with the cradle and move along the continuum. We are creating a culture that values collective work and shared impact, so that everyone can make those healthy choices that are so important to the community as a whole. Engagement requires trust, and feeling safe is a part of that trust. The development of civic muscle, the will to make change, can be a result of working to make a healthier Pueblo, so that success is possible for each of Pueblo's children, and that economic development and improved health outcomes are possible for the whole community. We know we have a generation of work ahead of us, but just imagine the generation that comes next. The factors that make up community health are complex. They are interconnected and interdependent. The success of the Safe Schools Healthy Students Initiative has been a launching pad for much of this work, but it is not a stopping point. Using the Aspen Grove as our model, we are learning to be more effective and a stronger part of our community. These are community values. We continue to seek that change we wish to be in the world, or at least in Pueblo. Without a doubt, the complexity of this work and the timelines are daunting, deliriously so sometimes. But it is that forest, that organic Aspen Grove of partnerships that makes the critical difference. We are strongest together. Today, we invite you into our one community.